Well, hello there, listener. My name is Matthew Renfro, host of The Fro Show, and you're listening to another great Four-Eyed Radio product. For more shows, check out foureyedradio.com.
Bond. James Bond. Shaken, not stirred.
Utter one more syllable and I'll have you killed.
I thought Christmas only comes once a year.
For your eyes only, darling.
I never joke about my word, 007.
For England, James?
Come in, Univex. James Bond here.
Am I going to have a problem with you, Bond?
Allow me to introduce myself.
You're that secret agent! That English secret agent from England!
No, you're cleverer than you look.
Still better than looking cleverer than you are.
My God, what's Bond doing?
I think he's attempting re-entry, sir.
007 reporting for duty.
Hello! The name's Berkeley, Ziggy Berkeley from Cinema on the Rocks. And with me is Eric Dewey from Socially Awkward Studios. And you are listening to Her Majesty's Secret Podcast, only on the Four-Eyed Radio Network. That's right, this is the show where we talk about bondage! James bondage. All sorts of cloak and dagger bondage. And today we're going to lead you on a merry chase!
Woo! Yes, finally talking about specifically the chase scenes, car chases, foot races, every type of chase imaginable has happened within the James Bond universe, and today we're going to talk about a lot of them. We're going to talk about quite a few chases throughout the Bond universe. How many chases are we going to be talking about specifically?
We're going to be talking about 29 chases. Specifically, for one of the last times we can say this, we're going to be talking about the 23, as of the day we record this, Eon films, plus our usual wildcard of Never Say Never Again, coming up to 24. And then we have 5 additional wildcards, because there are so many chases, it's hard to pick just one from every Bond movie and be done with it. So we were allowed to pick as many other chases from Bond movies as we wanted to. No limits to the number of chases from one movie you can pick, but we had to pick at least one chase from every movie.
Yes.
Which is why we're going to have some pretty lame chases early on.
Well, see, actually, and that's the one thing that I didn't think at first when we stipulated that was going to be the rule. I mean, I understand because we always have that rule within our list, but I thought that it might be a problem. For me, it wasn't at all. I didn't have a problem picking at least something from every movie because the way I judged these chases was essentially completely independent of their movies. Just the chase scenes themselves and what they meant to me or what they made me feel. So I didn't have a problem whatsoever. I mean, some of them I just had trouble putting them so low on a list. I really consider this to be one list where I don't really have a bot like, okay, here's the ones that just suck and then we got to get them out of the way. I consider all of these to be good movie chase scenes.
I consider most of them to be good movie chase scenes. I have 2 that I have a definite meh for, 2 more that are so-so, and then the rest are really great. I mean, this list overall was one of the hardest ones that I think I've had to do in terms of being able to rank everything. And that'll come out especially as we keep going.
All right. See, for me, the ranking was hard because once I'd picked them, it was hard for me to look at one. You know, there's a couple that obviously floated right to the top for me, and a couple that, made their way down to the bottom just naturally based on the competition of the other scenes. But for me, the hardest part was the middle, pretty much the middle, like 24 or so of the 29, because everything else was very hard to, it was just hard to rank because they're all so good. Like I said, a few, the top ones, those ones are just fantastic. But for me, the bottom ones, some of them, the only reason they're down on the bottom are just small little nitpicks. And that's the reason they ended up lower on the list than some others. So it'll be interesting to talk about it, and I'll be curious if, because of my disregard for the actual movie and the quality and how much I like the movie itself that I picked these chase scenes from, I'm wondering if I'll surprise anybody with some of my picks. If I do, fantastic. If not, I'll get over it. But
it tends to happen.
Yeah, it does tend to happen, and I like it. I like the fact that it happens. It actually brings me joy.
Well, it also makes the show fun for everybody.
Yeah, I get to talk about movies that I might skip over on other shows, just kind of get this out of the way. It's on the list because it has to be, but in this time, maybe I'll talk about it more than once, so things could get surprising. You never know.
Indeed. And speaking of talking about how things turn out, surprising people and so on, we want everyone to remember that we're still running our fan appreciation contest. So if you're listening to this show relatively near to the time that we originally released it, you still have time to enter. Just go to hermajestiespod.com/contest, answer our 3 questions, namely, what is your favorite episode of Her Majesty's Secret Podcast thus far? And that's going through episode 50, so the one before this one. Yeah. And then, what is your favorite thing overall about the show? And finally, which of our lists that we did prior to episode 50 would you like us to redo first after the release of Spectre? You have until October 31st of 2015 at the end of the day in whatever time zone you live in to enter our contest. And this contest is open to absolutely everyone. You don't have to have listened to all 50 episodes up to this point. You can just have listened to a few and have a favorite. That's fine. We're not going to discriminate. And if you've won a contest of ours before, that's fine. You're a loyal fan, so we really want your opinion. So please go to hermajestiespod.com/contest and enter our fan appreciation contest.
Do it. Yes. I can't wait to see some more of those entries rolling in. We definitely want to hear from you. Hey, even if you've only listened to one episode, if this is the first episode you've ever listened to, that's fine. Go to hermajestiespod.com, click on that contest link, fill in the form. You know what? Just pick one. I don't even care that this one's not on the list. Go back and listen to a few minutes of something. I don't know. Do something.
Even if you've only listened twice.
But go forth and bring yourself some joy, possibly by winning some great super secret prizes from us.
Yes,
ask any
everyone
of our
out there in
winners.
America and Canada and Amsterdam and so on. Please.
Yes. We want to hear from absolutely everybody, So get in there and get those answers in. We want to hear from you.
Indeed we do. But now I'm sure you want to hear from us on our list of merry chases throughout the 007 films. One criteria that we did agree upon is that we are judging the chase. Now, the James Bond series often amalgamates chases and fights, and if there's a fight in the middle of a chase, that's fine, but we're not judging the fight. That is a separate episode. That's the next episode. So we are just judging the chase in this one.
Sounds like a country song. The Chase.
Yeah, something about NASCAR. Yeehaw! No, but this is a particularly fun episode because even though the list was very hard, it's hard because really the James Bond series has been the crucible through which the chase scene, I think, has evolved into its modern form in film. I mean, yes, there are other iconic chase scenes in motion pictures, but I think that they were spurred on by 007 because I really can't think of many prior to this that really felt like a modern chase scene. I mean, there have been, of course, there were always the, cowboys after the stagecoach or that kind of thing. But in terms of the modern chase scene, I think that really develops with the James Bond series. And then, of course, there are other movies that have tried to up the ante. Like, for example, the fantastic chase scene. If you have never seen this movie, you need to see this just for the chase scene. Please go see 1968 Bullet with Steve McQueen. One of the most fantastic chase scenes ever filmed. 10 minutes through the streets of San Francisco in a Mustang, and Lalo Schifrin, the guy who did the score, you may know him from things like Mission Impossible. He refused to write music for it because he said the sound of the engines was so cool that music would just detract from it. It's just awesome. So if you want to see an example of a chase scene done right outside of 007, go watch Bullet.
I've actually seen that, and yes, the chase scene was fantastic.
But now we're talking 007, bondage, James Bondage.
Oh,
so
yeah.
Who wants to engage in the first act of bondage?
I think I'll go ahead and jump to the number 29 on my list. So this is the very bottom of my list, and I almost felt bad putting this one here because, well, it is an iconic Bond chase scene. but yet just everything that built on it past that just, I think, was better. So my first one to talk about is the first one from the first film, when Bond was fleeing from the three blind mice, who evidently were on their way to a funeral in Dr. No.
Wow. I am totally shocked. I am flabbergasted, and I am so flabbergasted because at number 29 from Dr. No, I have that original chase scene on the road to Miss Taro's house, which, while it was, the first real major chase scene, it just, compared to everything that came after it, it's just there. And that's why I said that there's some that are just kind of lame, and this is, by the standards set by the rest of the movies, just nothing. It's not a bad chase scene, and yet compared to the rest of the Bond series, it kind of is.
It can be, and it suffered some from, obviously, the green screen of the time was not great. So bad green screen is bad, as I put in my notes.
Well, that's because it wasn't even a green or a blue screen. It was actually somebody projecting film onto the wall of them.
Well, that'll do it. And of course, you do have the tire screeching sounds even when they're driving on gravel roads. You have the obvious repetition of shots. Those two cars came around that same bend about 5 times in that chase scene. They were, very, like we see them right at the beginning of it, and then we see some more driving, and then we see them about midway through that same corner, and then we see some more driving, and then we see them just coming out of that same corner. It's like, wait a minute, they have been turning that same corner for quite some time.
Yeah, well, it's easy to get lost in Jamaica.
But I think, for me, the payoff with I think they were on their way to a funeral. Considering they were chasing him in what looked like a hearse to begin with, and and of course the insta explosion when the car crashes. Yeah, what are you gonna do? But still, even as bad a chase scene as it really kind of was, it was still very iconic and very Bond. So while it's at the bottom of this list, I would still put it above many chase scenes in other films that have gone on even more recently than this.
I would agree with that. And it's just that compared to the rest of its company that we're talking about, it's just kind of there. So Eric and I agree. At number 29, Dr. No.
That'll be the only matching number this entire episode, probably.
So that brings us up to my number 28.
Indeed.
And the problem with this chase scene is it sabotages itself. And that's actually a problem with a few of the lower ones on my list. But it's just, this should have been one of the most awesome chase scenes ever. Because, and I'm going to give it away with my next sentence, it contains what should be, and if you take away post-production, is one of the most fantastic car stunts ever filmed. Because it does not contain special effects. It's real. This isn't a model. This isn't trick photography. No, a driver actually did a loop-the-loop with a car over a river in one shot. Unfortunately, some jackass put a slide whistle over what was an awesome stunt, and that just kills chasing after Goodnight in The Man with the Golden Gun. Now, granted, I have a problem with the start and the finish of the chase, because it's not a very satisfying ending. The guy gets away, and he gets away pretty slowly. I mean, he has a long time to get the wings on that car and get it going. So the pacing just kind of dies. Plus, you have to listen to J.W. Peppa through the entire thing.
I was wondering if you were going to mention J.W.
And let's not forget that it starts because the dumbest Bond girl ever, who makes Christmas Jones look like a frickin' nuclear physicist. Hey, wait a minute.
It's like, whoa.
It's because she locks herself... You see, the movie could have ended right there. But no. Dumbass locks herself in the trunk, and then we have this chase, which could have been awesome, but for the slide whistle and the racist American tourist, and the pacing. So my number 28, chasing after Mary Goodnight in The Man with the Golden Gun.
Not to give anything away, but we won't be long in talking about that particular chase again. I may have ranked it slightly higher, but not dramatically so, and for many of the same reasons.
So what did you put at number 28?
So what I do have at number 28 is this one had some fun stuff to it. For me, maybe it was just a little too short. I could have had this go on a little bit longer and had some more fun with it.
That's what she said.
Oh, also I did have to disregard part of the chase does involve some fighting, which adds to the scene, but I didn't count it towards my ranking of the chase. That's the only reason this is so low, because otherwise this is a very fun chase, very interesting chase, and really just quite enjoyable all around. I really enjoyed this scene in general. Even though the movie may not be one of my absolute favorites, I still enjoyed this scene, and that is in A License to Kill. The scene where he's being chased, he starts underwater, then he ends up on the water, and then he's up in the plane, and then he fights the guy, and the money's flying everywhere. It's fantastic. Fun scene. But, a lot of the action is the fight, so have to take that out, and that's really the only reason this is as low as number 28 on my list.
See, if we were the type of show that does drops, which I'm really glad we're not, by the way, because those are usually lame, I would toss in the line from the movie where Anthony Zerb describes the exact chase scene to an incredulous Robert Davi. So he water skied behind the plane. Yes!
Exactly. That's pretty much how it went down.
All right.
Pretty much, I mean exactly.
I can't say that I voted the way you did, but I completely understand. I do not question your judgment, surprisingly enough.
And like I said, I really consider all of these to be good chase scenes. I just considered some to be better, and for some things I really had to nitpick to find reasons to move them up or down on the list because I was having such a hard time ranking them once I had picked them. So,
I'm going to spoil something for everybody.
Uh-oh.
This is the only time we're going to be talking about that chase at all on this list, even though I love that chase scene.
Whoa, all right. Interesting. Well, yeah, I had read somewhere, and I don't have an official list or anything, but I had read somewhere that the Bond films have over 60 different chase scenes. So we are picking literally from less than half is appearing on this list. So there's going to be some.
We're limiting ourselves by our rule where we have to pick at least one from every movie. Because if we didn't have to do that, you can believe that this would definitely be above the Dr. No chase for me. But since I have to pick one from every movie, some that I would have liked to have had, even in the middle or upper middle or higher, I had to cut out because I had to have representatives from everything. So,
all right.
So this is the only time we will be discussing that chase from License to Kill.
All right. I believe that moves us on to number 27.
It does indeed.
At number 27, I have one that I hope doesn't break your heart that I have it this low. I have a feeling this one might be higher on your list, assuming, of course, it's on your list at all. But I really enjoyed this chase scene. I just thought there were a lot better, possibly even some from this same film. Who knows? We'll get there if we get there. But for me, number 27 is... And I feel like I really have to justify how low this is on my list so that you don't hurt me. There's so many... For me, the stunt work in this is what really sells it. And, that's part of a chase scene, I think. I counted that as part of the chase scene. Not the fighting, but the actual stunt work involved in the chase. And, of course, the fact that we're dealing with an abnormal vehicle, a vehicle you don't normally see in a chase scene. You're also having a chase scene through a very iconic area. You have an area in the United States that is just known for certain things, and they do not disappoint in this chase. So, of course, I'm referring to, in A View to a Kill, the fire truck chase. I'm sorry.
I question your judgment.
When I first put this on the list, I did have it much higher, and then as I started ranking things, and it could easily have gotten bumped up, but it just, the way I started looking at things, it just made its way down. Like I said, still great chase, fun, great stunt work. I saw a little bit of the behind the scenes on it. The guy who was doing the stunts on this one was fantastic, so can't fault any of that, but it just so many great chase scenes in the Bond universe. That's all.
I apologize to our audience from San Francisco. No, I question your judgment, though.
All right. Fair enough.
I'll just say that, and we'll get back to this later.
All right. Well, then, pray tell, what do you have in that number 27 spot?
In that number 27 spot, I have, and some people may question my selection of Chase from this particular movie, because there is another one that stands out for a lot of people, and then the one that I think a lot of people would think of first, I classify as a fight, so I'm not including that one. You'll probably guess what that one would have been when you find out what movie this is. But despite the sheer magnetism of the other chase that a lot of people are going to remember from this movie, the one that sticks out for me in You Only Live Twice is when Bond runs after Aki and ends up getting trapped by Tiger Tanaka. It's a short little thing, but it's fun to watch Bond on his little foot race and Aki very obviously leading him on. And he's just this oblivious little rat. And then suddenly he drops to the floor and down a carnival slide, which I think is hilarious and one of the coolest ends to a chase ever. Bond has had the drop gotten on him, literally, but it's just a fun little foot chase. And that's the one that stands out the most for me from You Only Live Twice. So that is my number 27.
Wow. All right. Spoiler alert. That'll be the only time we talk about that particular chase scene in this episode. I don't question your judgment. That was a fun little chase, but it just didn't rank high enough, probably because of how short it was. But I completely understand your reasoning, so no questioning.
All right. Now, I was originally shocked by how low I have my number 26. And now we're getting to the part where from here on in, I feel like I have to justify anything that's below 10. So, because this is an iconic chase. And not only is it an iconic chase, it's an iconic chase that pays homage to an iconic chase. Probably, in fact, the chase that this refers back to is probably the one pre-Bond chase scene I can think of that feels like it belongs in a Bond movie, which means that I have to be referring to From Russia with Love, the chopper versus truck chase that ends up being a chopper versus Bond on foot chase that is filmed as a direct homage to the crop duster sequence in North by Northwest.
Yeah.
It's short, but if you've seen North by Northwest, it's like then this scene gets double the pleasure because you get to compare the two and it's a lot of fun. But even if you haven't, and if you haven't, as we talked about on a previous episode, you should. That's an awesome movie. But even if you haven't, it's a fun little chase. It's short. The only reason I have it so low on the list is it's also filmed very deliberately, and I think that's part of the homage that doesn't quite jive because the rest of the film seems to be just of a little bit more of an excited tempo. And the tempo actually drops during this scene. It just doesn't feel as heated as I thought it could. It's still a great chase scene, and I'm nitpicking the hell out of it. But that's what I have at number 26, the North by Northwest homage in From Russia with Love.
All right. I'm actually... I won't question your judgment because, spoiler alert, this one is on my list. And it's not too much higher. So I was originally concerned when this one started kind of trickling down the list as I raised others. I worried. I'm like, am I going to catch a lot of hell for this one? But I think we're good here. So we'll get to that one without before too much longer.
So what do you have at 26, sir?
At my number 26, this is one that. Honestly, the only reason it ranked this low is because it doesn't have anything super duper unique to it, but it's just so fun. It's just so fantastical, and basically, it's just a good, solid chase scene. It's Bond being chased by a multitude of other vehicles, and still, of course, outwitting them all. And that is, quite simply, from Octopussy. I put this down as the stolen Alfa Romeo versus pretty much the entire German police force. Basically, he had everybody after him. It was fantastic. There were motorcycles, there were cars, just, nothing super special or unique, no crazy, antics or anything like that would just, bring it way up to the top of the list. But a good, solid chase scene, fun, entertaining, my number 26.
I cannot say I question your judgment. I agree, that's a fantastic scene. And this may come as a shock to you, but spoiler alert, that is the only time we will be talking about that chase on this list.
Woo! All right.
Even though I love the chase, that was one of the hardest ones for me to knock off the list.
Fair enough. So that brings us to number 25.
It does indeed.
Number 25.
And what do you have, sir?
On my number 25 is one that you've already mentioned. And this one would be so great. This one would be easily in the top 007, were it not for two things. A slide whistle and J.W. Pepper. Those two things were enough to knock it all the way down from easily top 7 material all the way down to number 25 for me. And of course, I'm referring to the man with the golden gun, the AMC stunt, flipping over the river there. I mean, just fantastic, and even more so knowing the fact that wasn't CGI, that wasn't special effects, that was an actual car doing an actual flip over an actual space. I love it, but whoever was in charge of the sound effects should be not just fired, but taken out back and beaten with a rubber hose. And whoever made the decision for J.W. Pepper to ever be in any Bond film ever should have the same fate, I believe.
See, I'm surprised at you in one thing.
What's that?
Your punishment. Wouldn't it be more appropriate to feed them to sharks?
Not that violent. You've got me on Bond villain status now.
But sharks. Freaking sharks.
Yes. I could go with that, especially with the J.W. Pepper person. Whoever was in charge of casting, or whoever wrote that scene in, and whoever was in charge of editing who didn't look at that scene and say, hey guys, could we not? That person, all of those people, should be punished severely. Before that gets knocked all the way down to number 25 for me.
All right.
So what do you have in the number 25 hole?
I am shocked at what is at my number 25.
Shocking yourself. All right.
Because, again, I love this scene. In fact, in an earlier episode, I complimented the hell out of this scene. And we had a member of our audience question my judgment about how good I think this scene is. Because as an opening for a James Bond movie, how much cooler can you get than a chase? And yet, when I rewatched the movie, immediately after watching another one, I had compared to other Bond chases, it's just kind of there. It's still exciting, it's still awesome, but in the end, I couldn't rank the opening chase sequence from Quantum of Solace higher than number 25.
All right. I don't know if this is quite at questioning judgment level or not. I will say I slightly look at you sideways on that one, just a bit. I completely understand your reasoning. I will say we will talk about this scene a little bit more later on, but not dramatically later on. So I think we're okay.
Okay. I will say that one thing that I did not take into account when I judged this chase, because I think its placement is one of the coolest things about it as an opener, but I didn't judge it as an opener. I just judged it as a chase. Could have taken place at the beginning, end, middle, whatever.
Right.
So,
as did I for that one. Yeah, absolutely.
But this is, we're now past the point where it's hard to have anything this low on the list, because I do like all of these. So my number 25, Quantum of Solace, the opening chase.
Fair enough.
My number 24...
24...
probably won't disappoint you very much. It shocks me, though, because I grin whenever I see the start of this scene, just because of the silly position that we start with. But it's only silly in terms of it's not something you would necessarily have imagined, but it's cool when it happens. And if the chase had any consistency to its pacing, this could easily be much higher on the list. But the problem is it stops several times in the middle and just suddenly loses all of its momentum on more than one occasion. And so I can only be so amused by the notion of Sean Connery on a crotch rocket in Never Say Never Again. Because while it's cool, and I love see him doing that ramp jump out of the truck, but it takes too long to lead up to that. The momentum of that chase dies right there, and it dies earlier on. It's just the pacing is not consistent. The direction on that scene just sucked. And it's really too bad, because going through the narrow streets and old Connery on a crotch rocket. And of course I could not count what happens immediately after, even though I think that scene is freaking hilarious, even though it's not perfected yet. But so my number 24, Connery on a crotch rocket from Never Say Never Again.
All right. Fair enough. I won't spoil anything just yet.
Okay.
But, no, I don't question your judgment, sir.
All right. So, what do you have at 24, sir?
At number 24, this is one that very easily could have been much higher on the list. However, due to a flagrant mistake that I think could have been caught in post, if not actually caught when they were doing the filming, I understand that the filming of the actual stunt that was the focus of this chase had problems. I know they had issues finding somebody to do this stunt, and when they finally did find somebody, they had already had part of it done, and then when they had the person finish it, well, they did it the wrong way. And it's made even worse by the fact that they tried to fix it by putting a scene in the middle that makes it seem like the car changed positions. But of course, I'm referring to Within Diamonds Are Forever, the Mustang chase scene, specifically where he goes through the alley on two wheels, which is so awesome. If only he didn't come out of the alley on the other two wheels. It would have been much higher on the list had that mistake not been made. But that's, as it stands, still a fun chase, still a cool stunt, and it makes my list at number 24.
I'm looking at you funny.
Oh, really?
Yes.
It could have been so much higher, but the fact that they made the error, which could have been fixed by a simple film flip, and then the fact that they tried to cover up that error by putting a random, we're going to show him changing wheels in the middle of the alley. If he had room to do that, why did he go up on two wheels in the first place? There's no reason for there to be a spot in that alley for him to just randomly change wheels. So for me, the cover-up is almost worse than the actual error, and drops it down quite a few spots on my list.
Okay. So, what do you have at number 23, sir?
At number 23 was the one that I was worried I had way too low on my list, that I was going to catch so much hell from you. Then you spattered it off at number 26. From Russia with Love, the flower truck versus helicopter homage to North by Northwest. Fun scene, fun chase. You got the vehicle chase, then you got them jumping out, running on foot. They're running from the helicopter. You get that great, visual effects of the helicopter going after them. There's at one point in that scene where I don't know if it's the camera angle or if Sean Connery was really about to be impaled by the foot on the, I don't know what they're called, the little thing on the helicopter.
The skid?
The skid. There was one point where it really looked like Sean Connery was about to be impaled by one of those skids, and I don't know if that was just a camera angle, but it was like, whoa, holy crap, they almost got him. So for me, that in itself pumped it up a couple of spots, but still, while it's such a great chase scene, the fact that it's almost copying from something else actually brought it a little bit down on my list. So that's it kind of bounced back and forth for a few different reasons, and ultimately landed in the number 23 spot.
Okay. Obviously, I can't question your judgment there, sir,
So then what do you have in your number 23 spot?
In my number 23 spot, I have a two-part chase, which also involves a helicopter. That is part 2 of the chase, and that is from The Spy Who Loved Me. That is the Lotus chase that begins with the motorcycle and sidecar torpedo, followed by the helicopter chasing the Lotus after the motorcycle fails. And part of what does it for me is you see Carolyn Monroe as Naomi in the helicopter. She pauses right alongside of him. He looks at her, and she gives him just this big old flirtatious wink. And that just adds more fun for the scene to me. And especially after earlier when you see Barbara Bach looking at her just like, bitch. But the whole scene, starting with the motorcycle sidecar, and then the helicopter, and then, of course, you have the Lotus driving off the edge into the water, and then takes out the helicopter with a missile of its own. So that's just... But the combat portion is just the icing on the cake, because what we really have is a fun, exciting, amusing chase in The Spy Who Loved Me, number 23, Chopper versus Lotus.
23, huh? I'm going to say it. I question your judgment, sir.
Fair.
We might talk about that chase a little bit later on in the episode. Just saying.
Like from this point, and even a couple points earlier, this list is hard.
It really is. It really is.
This was one of the hardest lists.
So
I think that the
many
only
great
one
chase
that
scenes
might there's only two I can think of that might have been harder, and that's the episode we did just before this one and the episode we're going to do after. Because this is a difficult one because there's just so much good stuff.
It is.
In fact, I'm questioning my own judgment at number 22.
Well, do pray tell, what is your number 22 question, your own question judgment? I must know.
It is one of the most amusing chases in the entire series. And it makes me smile at the beginning. It makes me smile at the end. The problem is there's not that much space in between the two. I remember the chase being longer than it is. And I think the main thing that had me vote it this far down is just how short the thing is, even though it's so memorable. And so, from the only one of the 007 movies to have two major boat chases, from Moonraker, the gondola chase.
Okay.
I just love the gondola. I think the gondola is a great vehicle. I think it's fun. It's something totally different. And then when it turns into the float and you have the triple take being done by the pigeon. What? Wiki, what?
When your decision is based on what a pigeon does, that's when it's time to question your own judgment, sir. No, I'm just kidding. I think you're all right.
It's just a fun, amusing chase. And I always love it when it's on. It's just so short. That's what she said. And so that's why I have it at number 22.
All right. Fair enough. For a moment, I thought we were going to be right on the same page again for just a moment. And then I realized that your number 22 and my number 22 is the other boat chase from Moonraker. the chase which involves, of course, the glider getaway and Jaws falling off of the waterfall. For me, that one was the one. The gondola chase was fun, but it just wasn't quite up there with this one for me as far as from this particular film to make this list. So for me at number 22, also from Moonraker, but the other boat chase, the one with the glider getaway, which I thought was just fantastic.
So you're basing yours on how goofy Jaws looks when he tears off a steering wheel, and I'm basing mine off a triple take pigeon. Fair.
Okay. I see what you did there, and I'm okay with it.
All right.
So that brings us to...
That's cool. I like how we did that. Because
worked out nicely, didn't it?
Yeah. As our regular listeners know, we never plan this out. We have no idea what our lists are like. So that's fun. I like that.
Awesome. That brings us to the number 21 spot.
It does indeed.
For me, this was another hard one to pick from this movie. And, spoiler alert, this one didn't end up being one of my wild cards, so there aren't two from this film on my list. But the one that I did pick from this list was the one that I just thought was the most fun, especially due to the type of vehicle involved. And that is from our racist friend movie, The Live and Let Die. the double-decker bus chase. I just love this one. I thought briefly about including the following scene, just him being followed like a cue ball, but ultimately the double-decker bus was just it for me. So fun chase, fun vehicle to be chased in, and just great time. Double-decker bus from Live and Let Die.
All right, I don't question your judgment that it's here. That was actually, again, one of the hardest ones for me to not include on the list because I love that scene. And I also love how Jane Seymour talks about it because in the behind the scenes, she's like, okay, so you're going to be sitting in a double-decker bus. We're going to cut in half. She's okay. And the other people around her are like, are you sure you want to do this? You don't want to stump. Are you sure you want to do this? But so I understand. It's a fun scene. I don't question your judgment that this one's here. I question what else you said, but I will leave it at that.
All right. So then that brings us, I believe, to your number 21.
It does indeed. And this one, I'm a little bit of a hypocrite on, but I just enjoy the scene. The reason I'm saying a little bit of a hypocrite on it is because one thing I've been knocking other scenes for is that they stutter stop. So the chase doesn't feel continuous in that there are multiple breaks in this one, but I think the breaks in this one, unlike the one with the Connery crotch rocket, didn't kill the pacing. I think that they worked because of what was going on in those breaks and just the overall timbre of the direction. So my choice at number 21 from License to Kill, is the semi-truck chase, including, of course, James Bond popping a wheelie on a semi-cab.
I almost forgot about that part.
So we have not only popping a wheelie on the semi-cab, but then the tried and true, yes, everybody's done it, which is another reason it's down to number 21, but it's still a winner where he's trying to climb on the back of the rig, and of course, truck swerving, trying to get him off. That's right, but it's just fun. It's well done. It's a classic model for a chase, and well-directed, and the wheelie, man, the wheelie. So my number 21, the semi-chase from License to Kill.
All right. Fair enough. I won't question your judgment. I didn't include that one on this particular list, but won't question your placement.
All right. You might question my number 20.
Uh-oh.
Because for a lot of people when this movie came out, this is one of the standout scenes in it. And I can't argue that it's a standout scene. I can't argue that it's not fun, because it is fun. But I have two problems with it that drop it far enough down to number 20. Even though it's a fantastic chase scene that pretty much any other movie would kill to have in it, especially early on. I am referring to the parkour chase from Casino Royale.
What? 20?
20. There are two reasons for this.
Judgment.
I figured you'd question my judgment. I knew you'd question my judgment. I bet out there in audience land, at least 60% of the audience is questioning my judgment. Let's see, which amongst you is doing that? Tyler, are you questioning my judgment? Ning Shin, are you looking at me funny or are you with me? I'm not quite sure there, but anyway. No, it's an exciting chase, and it's fun to watch.
Yeah.
But there are two things. One, and I'll even give a nod to how this is acknowledged. There are so many times where I'm looking at like, nope, he just would have shattered his ankles right there. And again, and again.
But he's Bond.
And there are many occasions where he looks like, oh, this is bullshit, I'd shatter my ankles. And then he does something different. He, gets a scissor lift going or whatever. I get that. But the other thing, and I think this is really what did it for me, and this is a personal bias, I completely admit it, I think parkour got old about 5 minutes after everyone started doing it in movies.
You do realize that the guy he was chasing was essentially the founder. Yeah. He was like the parkour guy.
And I understand.
And it was still cool when they were filming it. Keep that in mind. Parkour was still the new cool thing when they were filming it. So they got that going on, which is nice.
But it just feel, even when I watched it in the theater, I remember by then there was buzz about parkour and so on. I'm like, okay, already sick of hearing this. Maybe if it didn't get mentioned and played out like a top 40 song on a pop station, maybe. It's like I say, it's a bias on my part about parkour. So that's why the parkour chase at number 20 is, that's where it sits. So everyone, go ahead, throw your virtual spitballs at me. Go for it. I can take it.
All right. I understand your reasoning, and therefore I won't, severely question your judgment. No, you know what? I take that back. I still severely question your judgment, sir, on that one. I have to.
Not as severely as I question your judgment on your number 27. No, anyway, or 26. What? Yeah, down there. Truck. You know which one.
27. 27 it was. All right. Okay, then. But wow, 20. All right. Well, I suppose that brings us to my number 20?
It does.
Yes? Okay. So my number 20, this one I found fun primarily because Bond was not involved in the driving on any of this. He was in the car, but he's not driving. And I find it fun that his facial expressions, Bond needs to be in control. He is a control freak. Nobody is denying this, I'm sure. So for me to see this and see this happen to Bond in such a way where he's like, how am I not in control right now, makes it that much better. And so for me, at number 20, from You Only Live Twice, the chase scene between the Toyota 2000 and the Crown Deluxe. The Toyota, of course, being driven by Aki, not by Bond. That's my number 20, just for sheer, novelty.
Understandable. We may revisit that theme at some point.
All right, fair enough.
But I respect your choice. So what do you have at number 19, sir?
Now, at number 19, this is where it really, for me, like all of these, like I said, I love all of these chase scenes. Don't get me wrong. Even the lower ranked ones, I still love them. Number 19 is really where it gets to the point of, I really love these chase scenes, and it pains me to be putting double digits on these even. So please don't, send your hate mail somewhere else. Because for me, number 19, and this is only because there are so many other good chase scenes in the Bond franchise. Number 19 is the original Aston Martin DB5 being chased by Oddjob and his crew in Goldfinger. A fantastic chase scene. You get to see all the fun little gadgets that the Aston Martin has, and you have the bonus of it not being a successful getaway for Bond, which is not, of course, perfectly normal. Obviously, normally you think Bond gets away, right? That's what Bond does. Not this time he doesn't. And so for me, number 19, but still really freaking good. Don't get me wrong. Goldfinger, the DB5 versus Oddjob and crew.
I'm looking at you a little funny, but not really.
Like I said, it's so hard for me not to have that higher, but at the same time, oh man, I like so many of these other ones. Oh man, there's just so many good chase scenes, and we're getting into the real meat of it now.
I totally understand. I'm not going to question your judgment, but we'll get to that in a bit.
All right. So what then do you have at? I guess that brings us to your number 19, right?
It does.
And what do you have?
And had I done some math earlier, we might have started in a different order, because my number 19 is actually kind of a twofer with my number 20.
All right.
Because my number 19 from Casino Royale is the chase through the Miami airport and grounds, which I just found to be really exciting and fun. And again, a kind of chase scene that most other movies would kill to have in their film. Yeah, it did not have the novelty of the parkour, but I think that's part of why I like it better.
All right.
Just because, like I said, I got over parkour the moment I saw it. So
I think, you see, for me, parkour, it means nothing to me except in the context of a chase like that. Like, for me, like, every other time I've seen parkour, like, just people just doing it, I'm like, but why? No one's chasing you. I just want to ask him, like, but did you die? I don't understand why you're doing this right now. But in the context of, oh, crap, I need to get away from this guy who can kick my butt. I better do everything in my power to try and give myself any little advantage. Like, that's the only time it makes sense to parkour. Just parkour for the sake of parkouring, it's like, what? But I understand. I feel you, dog.
Word. But yeah, the airport scene just, I thought, had more of a feel of bigness to it. It just felt more grandiose. In fact, it felt like it could have been the climax to any other movie. And in a way it was, because Casino Royale really is multiple plots put into a single film.
Yeah, that's what's so great about it. Love it.
So I really enjoy the airport chase in Casino Royale, but because there's so many cool ones in the series, I have to put it at number 19.
All right. Fair enough. I won't question your judgment on that one. I will actually say that, surprisingly, that one is not on my list, and only because we did have the wild cards, but I did kind of, not intentionally, but did sort of restrict myself to no more than 2 from each film. That's the only thing I'll say.
All right, fair enough.
So I guess that brings us to your number 18.
It does indeed. And I went with for my number 18, I went with something very different. It's not a very fast chase, but I think that's part of what makes it so effective, because it is a very slow chase. In fact, the majority of it is done at a walking pace. Not running. I mean, there's a little bit of running, but not too much. It's mostly walking and standing still.
A little power walking, maybe.
But because of the way that it's filmed, and because of the setting and all the frenetic action around it, it's a very, very exciting chase, and just really well done. And I am talking about Bond's run through the Junkanoo in Thunderball, where he's bleeding, he's trying to get away from Fiona Volpe, and so he tries to hide out in the parade. So you have just this slow, tense chase where they're trying to sniff him out, and he finally ends up in the Kiss Kiss Club, which, of course, where the chase ends, so we don't think about what happened after. But just the chase through the parade, and, of course, the dog pissing in the middle of it, just because we have to mention the pissing dog.
We got triple taking pigeons and pissing dogs, folks. We're on a roll tonight.
You may remember our animal episode, Once Upon a Time. But who can forget the pissing dog? Come on. So, the Run Through the Junkanoo from Thunderball is my number 18.
All right, fair enough. I will admit that one did not make my list, probably because you know what? I don't even honestly believe I necessarily considered that one. Like when I was thinking about these films and about chase scenes, I'm not sure that one really, was on my radar per se. So, hey, good on you for pulling something from the I didn't even notice pile.
Now the question is, would the dog's name be Pissy Galore?
Oh, ew. Wow, that just took a turn. Things took a turn, as they often do on this show. But yes, Pissy Galore would be a great name for the dog. I will say this is another one of those fun little quirks where we're close-ish on numbers and movies, but not the same scene. So we'll get to that in a little bit. That brings us to number 17, I believe.
Your number 18,
Oh, actually. No, my number 18. Oh, that's right. I haven't done my... you know what? I kind of skipped over it because you'd already mentioned this one. Now, for number 18, for me, is one, like I said, that you already mentioned. I did not think as disparagingly about Bond on his crotch rocket as you did. I actually thought this was a very, very, very fun chase scene. In fact, actually probably one of the few scenes in this film that I truly, truly enjoyed, as a matter of fact. So, for me, the motorcycle chase in Never Say Never Again, one of the highlights of that film for me. That and the video arcade, of course. So that's my number 18. Your number 24, the motorcycle chase in Never Say Never Again.
All right, Connery on a crotch rocket for the win.
Oh, yeah.
So, I believe that brings us to your number 17.
Indeed it does. And number 17, as I kind of hinted at, is from the same movie as your 18, Thunderball. However, I chose a different chase scene. I chose the DB5 again because, man, I love that DB5. And the motorcycle coming to save the day versus the, I believe that was a Ford Fairlane, if I'm not mistaken. But I just love the fact that, first of all, we get the DB5 in a chase again, which I love.
Of course.
We also have Bond not really necessarily winning that chase per se because he was helped out. The motorcycle with rockets gave him a little bit of a boost. So for me, that's my number 17 from Thunderball, the DB5 and motorcycle versus the Ford Fairlane.
Awesome. And that brings us to my number 17.
Yep.
Where I completely expect you to question my judgment.
Uh-oh.
But again, we're at the point where it's hard to put anything so low on a list because there are so many fun chases. And that's what this is. Fun. It's iconic. I know you love it. I know it makes you laugh whenever you see it. And I know it's cool. I agree with you. My inner nerd especially agrees with you.
Are you breaking my heart?
I might. Just a little bit. Only a little bit, though. Not nearly as much as you broke mine earlier. Right. We may keep bringing that up. But anyway. Right. Yes. And mainly it's because it's fun, but it's actually pretty mediocrely paced. And that's the main thing, because most of the time he's just going, and the other cars, instead of him having to really evade them, he's just going and they just keep crashing on their own. Well, Bond is, of course, getting away in a moon buggy.
Moon buggy at 17? Yikes. Okay. All right, you know what? And I thought, honestly, that my placement of that one was low. I thought I had it low on the list, and you hit it with a 17. Yikes. But okay. You know
it's mainly because it's just such a passive chase. He's just going, and all these other cars are just crashing on their own. He doesn't have to do anything.
Yeah, because he's in a moon buggy.
A slow moon buggy. Hey, I can walk faster than that thing.
I'm going to point out something that you may not have noticed. You may not have taken this into consideration in this chase scene. Bond was in a moon buggy. How did you not see that?
I did see that.
All right. Fair enough. Like we said, there's just so many great chase scenes in these films that it's so hard. It's so hard to make these lists. That one does surprise me to be as low as it is, because honestly, I thought that I had it lower than you would have it on my list. So when we get back there again, you'll see just how wrong I was.
It's fun. It's just, again, there's so much good stuff. There's just so much excitement here that I couldn't put it any higher, and it surprised me too. But yeah, 17, Moonbuggy, Diamonds Are Forever.
All right. I'll give you this one.
All right.
So what then do you have at number 16?
At number 16, which we rarely see this movie get this high, but this is a very iconic scene, and it's one of those where, yes, it's not perfect. There are plenty of things wrong with it, and I think one of them is one of the things that you mentioned about an earlier chase, where in the background, you can very obviously tell we're looking at projections and we're looking at just wrong angles for everything, but it doesn't matter because it's such a cool, iconic scene, and it's one of the signature moments for Bond chase scenes. It has a very unique setting, and even the lead actor cannot ruin it, and that would, of course, be George Lazenby as James Bond on a ski chase after a bobsled, in a bobsled track.
Right.
So Bond versus Blofeld in the bobsled track at number 16.
Okay.
I'm hearing shock on your end.
A little bit, only because I had something a little different going on in my brain. And you know what, though? It's all good. It is so good. You don't have any idea.
So good?
It's so good. So good.
You know, that song has been used in more movies than any other pop song.
It is a great karaoke song because it gets the rest of the it gets everybody engaged. So no matter where you are, no matter how small the crowd is, there's at least one person in the crowd who will start singing along the bum bum bum, or it's something. So it's fantastic.
Well, there's a reason James Brown was the godfather of soul, man. So what do you have at number 16, sir?
All right, moving on to my number 16 from a movie I don't usually include. I probably wouldn't include on most of my lists if I didn't have to. And I almost never include this high on my list. From On Her Majesty's Secret Service. Not the same one, though.
This is fantastic.
This one is the ice track chase. This one is the one it's the cars still. Yeah, we're working with a common theme, always with the cars. Yeah. But I dig the ice track. I dig the whole, like, hey, we're going to do this thing on a little bit different. It was different, and it was cool, and it was fun, and you know what? It distracted me from the rest of the movie for a minute. So for me, I'm totally okay with my number 16 being from On Her Majesty's Secret Service, the ice truck rally car type chase scene thing going on.
All right, fair enough. You'll see why that's amusing. So that brings us to your number 15, sir.
Number 15 is one that I am shocked that this movie made it this high on my list, but yet this chase is so fun. This chase is so much fun, even though the rest of the movie does have its obvious issues. Let's not make any...
You're going to shock me if this is what I think it is.
I don't think we're quite there, but just wait. For my number 16, or 15, I'm sorry. We're on 15. My number 15, from The World Is Not Enough. The boat chase with Q's just miraculously placed super boat.
Oh, you mean on an upper floor?
Yeah, but perfectly placed. Just jump right out of the building onto the water and go. Why not? I mean, why wouldn't it be right there? But yeah, fun chase scene, great boat chase, even if you forgive the fact that, okay, why did Q have a boat on the 3rd floor or whatever? And oh, hey, look, it just happens to shoot right out. And it's not finished yet, but yet still it's working just fine, evidently. So yeah, From the World Is Not Enough, Q's miraculously placed boat chase.
All right. I can't question your judgment too much, I suppose. Now, that's not to say that it's the same as my number 15, because it's not.
Do you have a number 15?
My number 15, this is another one where I'm shocked it's this low, but I'm not questioning my judgment because I know everything that came higher than it. So I love this scene. And it starts off slow, but it's the kind of slow and deliberate that is a whole lot of fun. In fact, it makes me grin. In fact, this got mentioned in another episode because I think this part of the start of this chase is so funny that it made it to our comedy episode. And then, of course, we go to a exciting chase that audiences had been holding their breaths for, hoping would happen for 6 years. I am, of course, referring to, at number 15, from GoldenEye, the chase out of the chem factory. So we start with a gun being held to Sean Bean's head, and the chase starts at a walking pace because Bond is smart enough to walk behind a crate full of chemical weapons, which only an idiot would shoot at.
Fair enough.
And so he's running away, and they can't follow him yet. And Oromov is just abused as hell, and somebody shoots at him, so he shoots the guy in the head. And
as one does,
Bond slowly starts off our chase, meandering out, and then he runs out the door. And then we have the impossible chase down the airplane runway, where he first manages to hop on a bike, then he gets onto the bike, drives the bike off a cliff and into the airplane while he's being chased by half the Russian army, which then is so incredulous at what he's doing, they just kind of stop and watch.
What is happening here?
So the payoff of the scene doesn't... The chase stops before you get to the payoff of the scene, but just the whole ridiculousness of the portions of that chase are so fun to watch that I had to have it on my list. So the chase out of the chem factory is my number 15 from GoldenEye.
All right. I won't question your judgment because honestly, I didn't. That's another one that I didn't really consider a chase scene. It didn't occur to me that, yeah, they were chasing him at the beginning there. You know, obviously they were trying to get him and he was running away. So totally a chase scene, totally valid. I just didn't think of it. Boo.
And from GoldenEye. What the hell is wrong with you? You got to watch that movie again.
I should. You know what? I said I was going to the other day, and I never had time to, so I am woefully behind in my GoldenEye watching, as a matter of fact.
Shame on you.
I know, right?
Yeah.
So what does that bring us to?
My number 14.
Your number 14. Hit me.
Oh, I can't. I'm a little far away. I mean, if you'd given me some warning. No,
okay,
anyway.
Well, tell me what your number 14 is. My goodness, man.
Number 14, one that you already mentioned, and one that I was kind of wondering if you were going to question my judgment at how low I have it, when it turns out that I have it higher than you. Keeping on with the gold theme, from Goldfinger, what I consider the first real James Bond car chase. And that is, of course, the Aston Martin DB5 through Auric Enterprises, complete with ejector seat, pause in between, and then, of course, the continuation of the chase, and then he crashes because he doesn't realize he's driving into a mirror. So, from Goldfinger, the Aston Martin DB5 chase that really started it all, at number 14.
All right. Yeah, it's one of those ones that it's so great, yet at the same time, there's so many other chase scenes that have come since, and even before, that were so fantastic. It's great. It's fantastic. But there's still better even. That's what's so great about this film franchise. That's why we love the James Bond franchise so much, is the fact that it pains us to put a chase scene like that as low as that.
It does. And it actually hurts because that is such a cool scene. And again, pretty much everything for me from 25 on up. And it was very hard to place. And I'm not saying I don't like the ones from 26 on down. Well, okay, I may have something against one of them. But it's just that those four were the only really easy ones that I knew I was going to put at the bottom. Because after that, it became very hard. So like I said, this is one of the most difficult lists we've had to compile for me.
Absolutely.
So that brings us to your number 14, I believe.
Indeed it does. And my number 14 is one that you already mentioned, that I slightly questioned your judgment. I believe I said I looked at you sideways on this one because you had it so low on your list. This is one that was near the top of your list when we were talking about opening scenes. And I feel that it holds up as a chase scene by itself, especially with the payoff at the end. And that, of course, is from Quantum of Solace, the opening scene, the Aston Martin chase, where you see it's just so visceral. This chase scene is so action-packed. It is just a standard traditional chase scene. You've got cars chasing after cars, shooting at each other, running into things, going the wrong way, doing things that are crazy, but you don't see any crazy vehicles. There's nothing, really super weird about what's going on. It's just a pretty traditional chase scene, but it's so well done. You never for a moment feel let out of the action. And then the payoff, when he opens the trunk and you find out he had a dude in the trunk the whole damn time, for me, that just kicks it up even another notch. So, number 14 for me, your number 25, the opening scene of Quantum of Solace.
I understand your reasoning. I mean, like I said, like you had said, I voted it very high in the opening sequences list. So I can't question your judgment. I've mentioned I questioned my own at where I put it, so totally understand.
Fair enough.
Very cool.
So that brings us to my number 13, I believe.
It does indeed.
Now, my number 13, I'm hoping to redeem myself just a little bit in your eyes, because this is where we find out that my choice at number 27, which broke your heart, was not my only choice from that fantastic film that I know you love so much.
I do indeed.
And so for number 13, another chase from A View to a Kill. This one for me was just so much more fun because it was just so much more going on. And I'm sorry, but half a car or a third of a car is better than no car at all, right? So for me, the glider, or really parachute, versus the stolen taxi, which he cuts in half, makes into an instant convertible, and then cuts in half on his way to escape. For me, that was just absolutely fantastic. I love that chase scene. I love how it plays out. And even though the bad guy gets away in that chase, he does not catch up to Mayday, it still ranks as one of my, top 13 chase scenes in all of the Bond franchises. From A View to a Kill, the hang glider, or parachute, if you will, versus the stolen taxi.
All right. I admit I feel a little bit better now. And in fact, you'll find this ironic. It hurt me so bad to not put that on this list because I wanted to. I really wanted to.
All right.
But it's not on my list.
So that if that was not, then what was on your list at number 14?
Well, we already did my number 14.
I'm sorry, 13.
So, but at my number 13, one that you have already mentioned, and for me, the thing that brought it down on your list for you is one of the things that makes it just match the movie that it's in so much better for me. And I especially didn't get I get what you said, but I didn't, because, come on. If you can forgive how slow that moon buggy moves, then surely a car going into the alley on one set of wheels and out on the other is just so Vegas, baby, and just so ridiculous. And come on, that pile up in the parking lot, you don't see anything like that outside of the Blues Brothers. I mean, that is just such a fun scene. So the Mustang chase through Vegas, baby, from Diamonds Are Forever, is my number 13.
Perhaps I forgot to account for the Vegas baby factor.
Yes, I think you did. Because it's so Vegas. I mean, the only thing it's missing is an Elvis impersonator. In fact, in the year it was made, they could have gotten the real Elvis.
So sad to think about, really.
It is. It really is. Thank you very much. So that's my number 13.
All right, fair enough. I guess that brings us to your number 12?
It does indeed. And this is one that we certainly don't usually see mentioned twice on any lists. But it does happen. And and again, this is one of the 3 scenes that really stands out for me as something great from this movie. And that is the chase out of what I call the Christmas Village in On Her Majesty's Secret Service, where, again, even George Lazenby can't ruin it. In fact, all he has to do is sit in the passenger seat because Diana Rigg is driving. And yeah, we see the exact same footage used several times during the scene, usually with her sticking her tongue out the side of her mouth, but that's fine. I can watch Diana Rigg's tongue all night, really. No,
Whoa.
But no, the ice track turned demo derby rally is just awesome. And especially just the way Diana Rigg is handling the chase, and he's just sitting like, oh God. And then they bust through it. I just love that chase scene. And in the middle of a Christmas village. I mean, this is something that's just stepped right out of the Hallmark Channel. And it's like, there you go. James Bond chase. It's just, I love it. It's fun. It's exciting. It's amusing. So, yeah, Christmas Village chase. Number 12 from On Her Majesty's Secret Service.
All right. Yeah. No, I can't question your judgment too much. I had that at number 16. So, hey, you know what? For a movie that had so many other faults, especially in our eyes, I know a lot of our listeners don't agree with us there, and we're probably going to get those emails. We're like, how can you love those chase scenes so much and not like the rest of the movie? Well, we just do, okay?
Pretty much.
That's pretty much just how it goes down around here, around these parts. So I guess that brings us to my number 12.
It does indeed.
My number 12 is a chase scene that is very, very short. As a matter of fact, I wanted to push this one so much further down on the list just because of its shortness, but I just couldn't bring myself to. No matter what I did, I couldn't bring myself to really bring this one any lower.
It's not the size of the chase scene necessarily. It's how well it plays.
In this case, it's not the length of the chase scene, it's the amount of times the car rolled over. Holy crap, oh my gosh. And so for me, number 12, from Casino Royale, as I put in my notes, the Aston Martin versus Vesper laying in the road. That scene, not a whole lot of chasing going on, but man, does it end. And holy crap, does it end. And that scene, just the filming of that, just unbelievable. Just absolutely unbelievable. And I love it. Absolutely love it. So for me, that gets me at number 12, Casino Royale. The Aston Martin rolling. Rolling. And rolling.
You see you rolling.
Rolling.
But you ain't hating.
Rolling a little bit more.
I can't question your judgment. I admit it was so short I didn't even think about it. That's what she said. But I can't question your judgment at all. I applaud your choice, actually. Very nice.
All right. I guess that brings us to number 11.
Does indeed. And what do you have, sir?
My number 11 is one that I'm wondering if you'll be at all surprised that this one is as low on my list as it is. While it actually surprised me that it was as high on my list as it is. And this is one that I always talk about as being one of the very, very few redeeming scenes from this film. A film that, again, doesn't usually make it this high on any of our lists for any reason. And that, of course, is the supercar versus supercar on the ice in Die Another Day. For me, this is, like I said, one of the redeeming scenes of this film. It would be even better without the quote-unquote vanish aspect of the Aston Martin, but still, fun movie. Or fun scene in an otherwise not-so-fun movie. Although I will admit, made quite a bit more fun when thinking about it in terms of the fan theory we got from Ning-Shen. So, but still, just in terms of straight up chase scenes, not quite cracking my top 10, but right there at number 11, the supercar battle from Die Another Day.
You'll notice I haven't mentioned that movie yet.
I did notice that actually, which kind of surprised me because I was like, oh, wait a minute, maybe it's up there a little bit too. Who knows?
But I'm not going to question your judgment. I understand, and yeah, solid choice.
Thank you.
Very solid choice. That brings us to my number 11, which you have mentioned already.
Okay.
Excellent scene. Awesome scene. I agree. It starts off with a ridiculous premise, but hey, it's James Bond. We're used to that. So if Q wants to keep his fishing boat on an upper floor of the building and still have a convenient way for it to just leap out into the River Thames, that's fine with me. And hey, if we're going to discover by accident that the boat can suddenly be made to go underwater and back up again because they didn't know it could do that. It just happened.
Like, hey, check this out.
So then they kept it in there. And I love Bond adjusting his tie in the middle of the chase scene underwater. That's just awesome. So yes, the chase scene through the River Thames and environs in Q's retirement fishing boat from The World Is Not Enough, which was also, of course, the first real use of the MI6 headquarters, for which the Parliament of the British government had to put it to a vote, and a member of Parliament said, it's the least we could do for James Bond after all he has done for us.
I like that.
So
that's classy.
It is. So, yes, Q's fishing boat from The World Is Not Enough is my number 11.
All right. Fair enough. I had that at 15, so not too far off. Guess that brings us to our top 10, eh?
It does indeed. And for my top 10, I would like to announce a 9-way tie for second place.
All right. Fair enough. What have you got there?
That is actually how I thought of places 10 through 2. There's one I definitely decided after thinking about it had to go on top, and then 10 through 2, tomorrow I'd probably put them in a different order. Next week, they'll be in a different order again. So these are really close chase scenes for me. All right. And I love them all. I mean, I love all of these chase scenes, but yeah, 10 through 2, it's kind of like a 9-way tie. Not quite. I could differentiate, but that's how close it is.
All right.
So one of my favorite scenes from this particular movie always makes me grin, and there's so many aspects to what make it fun. You have a silly vehicle, you have just a raucous setting, you have some comedy thrown in, but some also really good action, and great Bond one-liner thrown in the middle that has a purpose to the chase. So at number 10, from Octopussy, the chase through the streets of India on the little mini-moke, and then, of course, easy come, easy go with the cash. You're laying on my bed. Just fun chase scene. And then, of course, we end up with the classic that we would also see Indiana Jones pull off, where you go through the sign and the sign drops right back down. So just that whole scene is just awesomely fun. So the chase through the streets of India in Octopussy is my number 10.
All right, fair enough. I will admit that one somehow escaped my attention. Come to think of it,
I don't know how.
I'm not sure. I'm like looking at I'm not sure how that one managed to escape my attention, but I don't
How do you forget an Indian bazaar?
It's bizarre indeed. I don't know. How did I forget that one? Hold on, I'm going to amend my list right now. No, don't do that. Good solid choice. I'm not going to question your judgment, obviously. In fact, actually, I'm going to question my own judgment at somehow managing to miss that one in my list.
All right, so if you missed that one, then what didn't you miss at number 10?
At number 10 is another one that I think is probably one of the best scenes from this film, even though I do like this film. It's not my top all favorites, but it's still a very good film, I think, and still one that we hadn't quite lost the glamour of Pierce yet. Brosnan still had a little bit of something left in this one, and this scene, however, was just so much fun. And for me, that is, of course, from Tomorrow Never Dies, the remote control BMW in the parking garage, complete with the return to Q at Avis straight through the window. That kind of sells it right there.
Congratulations on a safe journey.
Fantastic scene. I love it. It's fun. You get, Bond in the car, not all the time. Sometimes he's using the remote control from outside the car, from inside the car. It's just, he's everywhere with this thing. And it's just a fun scene, especially considering at the time, you look at that phone, you're like, oh, a phone that opens up and has controls on the inside? That's crazy. Except, how often have we seen phones that have, flip-up keyboards or something like that? Stuff from like The Saint would seem like insane, but then you're like, yeah, my phone's got a complete keyboard. Yeah, no worries. So yeah, for me, that definitely cracks the top 10. Great fun scene, great action. You get to see a lot of the gadgets the car had. Even the one, this could have actually even been higher, I think, on my list, were not for the one gadget that they didn't point out that it had, that it just happened to have, and that the bad guys just happened to use the exact thing that this gadget would be for.
The hood ornament.
What's that?
The hood ornament.
Yes. Who thought, okay, people might try to stop this car with a cable, because clotheslining a car is a thing, right? But just in case somebody is stupid enough to try to clothesline a streamlined car, that would probably go right underneath this cable anyway. We're going to put a little hood ornament saw thing on there that's, of course, going to be at the perfect height. That one did distract just a little bit, because I was like, wait, what? First of all, I see them setting up the cable, and I'm like, what do they think that's going to do against a car that's, streamlined? They're like, okay, you're going to take its antenna off. Who cares? Mm-hmm. And then it's like, oh, no, it's okay. He's got a little saw at the front of the car specifically for a clothesline-type situation. He's prepared for this.
Of course he is. He's Bond.
That was the one thing that I was like, wait a minute. But other than that, just a fun scene. You get to see a lot of the gadgets. Not to mention the fact that we got to see how impenetrable the car was to begin with. The fact that they had the murderous, torturing doctor have to ask him to open the car. because they couldn't get in to get to the glove box in the first place. Just a fantastic scene all around. So even with the hood ornament, still makes my top 10.
All right. I'm not going to spoil anything from this point on. I'll just point out that I haven't mentioned that movie yet.
That is true.
So what do you have at number 9, sir?
Moving on to the single digits, I've got one that I haven't heard you mention yet either, which gives me hope. And that is, of course, is another great opening scene chase from the most recent, as of right now, Bond film, Skyfall. The opening chase scene on the motorcycles through the rooftops. Oh, just a fantastic, fantastic scene. I mean, just action-packed, have you on the edge of your seat the entire time, doesn't let up. Just fantastic. I don't think I can say fantastic enough to describe how awesome this chase scene is. And yet, there are 8 that I thought better. That's how good this franchise is. But yeah, so for me, number 9 from Skyfall, the opening chase scene, motorcycles on the rooftop, fantastic.
I might be questioning your judgment slightly. I'm kind of surprised.
Wow, we're in the top 8 in your question judgment. That's scary.
Top 9, because that's your number 9, isn't it?
9, sorry. Yes, it is. Yeah. You are correct, sir. You
But-
number much better than I do.
But I also mentioned that my 10 through 2 are pretty much a 9-way tie, so I can't question it too much.
There you go.
Maybe. Got to keep some suspense going, you know.
All right. Well, what starts your single digits at number 9?
At number 9, one you already mentioned, but not too long ago. And it's from a movie that I never mention in the top 10 for pretty much anything. So, of course, I must be talking about Bond Car versus Bond Car in Die Another Day. Because, yeah, it gets really silly at times, but it's a whole lot of fun. And it's something that you never get to see, and we never saw before, and really haven't seen again. And I kind of hope that we get to see something similar at some point, because that's just cool. So, Bond Car versus Bond Car from Die Another Day. It's just so fun to watch. Even as there's ridiculousness around it, I just couldn't help put it at number 9.
It really is a bright spot in an otherwise a movie that doesn't have too many bright spots. Let's just be honest.
Indeed.
So that brings us to your number 8, I believe.
It does indeed. And this is from a movie you've mentioned, but mentioned it a little bit differently than I am. This is, to me, this scene just is fantastic. This is one of the most exciting scenes. In fact, I think it is the most exciting scene in this movie. And it starts off with the director having a little fun with the cast as he says, hey, Pierce, don't let her get on the bike. Hey, yo, Michelle, don't let him get on the bike. So the fight they're having to get on the bike is real, because they both had instructions not to let the other one on the bike. And then we have the motorcycle chase that climaxes with motorcycle versus helicopter through what are supposed to be the streets of Saigon. They're actually filmed in Thailand. Fine with me. It's Southeast Asia. And holy shit, this is a cool chase scene. Just rockin' action all the way through. Little room for some one-liners and such there, too, just to keep up the Bond flavor and the amusement. But it's just an extensive, exciting, fun, awesome chase scene. And handcuffed to each other on a motorcycle, a little tiny motorcycle, versus a helicopter that's doing the full blades, chopping people up thing. I mean, that's awesome. So, from Tomorrow Never Dies, at number 8, Bike versus Chopper.
All right. I will admit that one crossed my mind and just narrowly escaped being on my list, but did not make it, which kind of surprised me now that I think about it. But I don't know if I could justify having 2 from this film on the list, while at the same time I couldn't not have the remote control BMW. So, tough call. But
we had to make some tough ones on this list, so I'm not going to question your judgment there.
All right. And I do not question yours in this case either. That was a fun chase. Fun.
So what do you have at number 8, sir?
For me, number 8 is one that I thought was just an absolutely fantastic chase, although this one could have been even higher than number 8, were it not for the incessant cutscene. For some reason, whoever was editing this decided that each bit of film needed to be no more than half a second long, and that did cut a little bit into my enjoyment, only because it did cut through a few things here and there that I think could have been better with some longer scenes. but ultimately it still ended up being an absolutely fantastic scene. And so my second from this film, from Quantum of Solace, the foot chase through Siena. Just an absolutely fantastic chase, just again, visceral, just intense. Ruined just a bit by the choppiness. That was an editing decision. I'm not sure why that was made, but hey, it could have been easily in my top 3 or 4 where it cut a little differently. But still so fun, so intense, and so keeps you on the edge of your seat the entire time. So it makes it to my number 8.
Interesting selection. I admit I didn't make it. It's not on my list at all, but I'm not going to fault you for putting it there because I totally understand.
All right.
That brings us to your honorary number 007 spot, I believe.
Number 007. And this one indeed is an honorary spot, I believe, and one that I was shocked that you had already mentioned so far down on your list at number 17. Moon buggy, baby. Moon buggy. Come on. James Bond was driving a moon buggy. A moon buggy. For crying out loud, it was a moon buggy, man. Have you? I don't understand. I don't know how else I can phrase this. But yes, my number 7, my number 007 honorary position from Diamonds Are Forever, the moon buggy chase. Honestly, this one could have even been a spot or 2 higher if it wasn't for the random moon buggy wheel flailing about there. Showing just how delicate that vehicle actually was. But still, just for an iconic Bond chase scene, just absolutely fantastic. I couldn't possibly have it any lower on my list.
I suppose that's fair. I understand it. I get it. It's one of those that you really get to be attached to. There's sentimental value to that, really, too. In fact, that's how I feel about my number 007, which in fact could have been higher because, like I said, 9-way tie. And because of that general feeling, I wanted to give this some kind of special place of honor. So the 007 spot seemed perfect in that instance. And it's another one where you can almost describe it just by the name of the vehicle that Bond is driving. So, whereas for your number 007, you're talking moon buggy. For my number 007, I'm talking Citron.
All right.
Yes, from For Your Eyes Only, the most unlikely Bond vehicle chase, because he drives up to the joint in a Lotus, which blows up immediately. So then what do they have to get into? Citron. And it's a beat-up little Citron, too.
It is. It really is. It looks like it's going to fall apart at any moment, but no, it holds up.
Yeah, so we're just driving through the harvest. Yeah, don't mind us. You just get all that stuff out of the trees. We're cool. Just drive the Citron right through. You never mind the big black vehicles dying all around us. So, yes, in a place of honor at number 007 from For Your Eyes Only, Citron!
I cannot fault your judgment at all. In fact, I'm going to interrupt the order just slightly to jump in with my number 6, which happens to be from For Your Eyes Only. The Citron chase. I couldn't not have this in my top 10. It couldn't not be in my top 7. I'm almost surprised it made it as low as number 6 for me, but definitely cannot fault you at number 7 for it. Again, just a fantastic chase. Not only just a great action-packed chase, no matter what vehicles are involved, but the fact that it's a Citron makes it that much better. So, right there with you, your 7, my 6, the Citron.
Citron, man. Citron.
So what do you have at your number 6 then, jumping back into the proper order?
At my number 6, we have one of, when you just look at not only general Bond fandom, but even just motion picture fandom, this is one of the iconic James Bond chase scenes that people keep referring back to. And you explicitly called this out as one you weren't going to include. However, I could not, in good conscience, not include the scene which, in the script for the film, when it was first delivered, had no blocking, had no planning. It just said boat chase. And damn, did they ever get a boat chase for Live and Let Die. So, the boat chase from Live and Let Die, just exciting, fun. Even J.W. Peppa can't ruin it because he's not in the middle of the action. He's just kind of showing up every so often. When meanwhile, boats running over everything, running into a wedding, everywhere. Just damn. Just And this is an era where you really didn't see boat chases that much. And you still don't as often as other vehicles, but this still, even decades and over 40 years later, this is still one of the greatest boat chases ever filmed for any movie. It still holds up as exciting. And, of course, you get that awesome Paul McCartney music in the background. Yeah. Number 6, Live and Let Die. Boat chase.
All right. I'm okay with that choice. I didn't include it, but I could have. I don't know. There's something about it that just didn't sit right, and I can't even really put it into words. Like, I don't know what it is, but I can't fault you either, because you are right. It was a great boat chase. And like you said, it was something that we hadn't really seen yet, that type of exciting boat chase yet. All right, I'll give that one to you.
All right. So now which one of us wants to get things rolling at number 5?
Heading into the top 5. You know what? I'll go ahead and go, because my number 5 is one that you've already mentioned way, way down on your list, and I questioned your judgment, because how could you possibly put the Submarine Lotus from The Spy Who Loved Me all the way down to number 23? How could you do that? I just don't understand that. But for me, number 5... from The Spy Who Loved Me, of course, that amazing chase scene ending with the Lotus underwater, shooting missiles at a helicopter, for crying out loud. Just fantastic. Love it. Love the ingenuity of having that, having a car that turns into a submarine, using it in that way. Fantastic. Absolutely love that scene. Love that chase. Love that car. So sad that they blew it up. But fantastic. So that's my number 5.
Even though I had it so far down on my list, I can't question your judgment at all, because, yeah, it's an awesome chase. And as I said, this list is so damn hard to put together that I can't fault you for it. So, yeah, great.
All right.
Lotus.
So what's your number 5?
My number 5 is one of, to me, honestly, this is one of my favorite James Bond scenes of any kind. It's just, I love watching this scene. And again, even though it's got a bit of a break in the action partway in, it's the kind of break that just keeps building the tension, so the chase never actually dies. There's a pause for the audience to breathe, but as you're breathing, your heart's still going, because you know what's going to happen next, and it can't be anything good for Bond. And I also just really dig the not quite but still kind of disco soundtrack in the background. It just works for it. I am referring to... And this also brings to mind some very classic James Bond imagery, the Olympic chase from For Your Eyes Only. So we start on regular skis, but that quickly comes to a finish. Then he ends up in the slalom line, where we get a little bit of a pause, but they're still going after him, just slowly, and he has no way out. So there's still tension, because how the hell's he going to get out of this? There's a guy with a rifle at the bottom, and yet with no poles, no nothing, he just gets off the slalom, then he has to get chased with the bike. It's just so much fun. I love the Olympic Village chase from For Your Eyes Only. So that's my number 5.
Not a bad choice at all, and I will admit that the only reason that one didn't make it on my list was because I already had the Citron chase on there, and as much as my nostalgia wanted to, I couldn't necessarily throw in a second one from that movie on here, but now that I'm thinking back, you make a good argument, and I could have easily put that one on my list as well, and maybe I should have.
I'll admit, that is actually one of 2 movies where I thought having 2 chase scenes from it was a no-brainer. And this is the one where I knew that they had to both be in the top 10, because I love both those scenes so much. The Citron and the Olympic Village, it's just such a blast to watch. So I had to include it.
All right.
Which brings us to my number 4.
Yes, indeed.
And like I said, 9-way tie. Could easily have gone, and there's a little bit of a pause in between, but that's okay. Because we start off with Girl being kind of worried, Bond just being very nonchalant about his car. Yeah, I've had a few optional extras installed. And thus we begin the iconic chase from The Living Daylights, where he has his fantastic car that has missiles, outriggers, and yes, when one of the tires gets shredded, that's okay. The rim can still cut through the ice. And when we're done with the car, we get into a cello case.
Yes. I was afraid that this one wasn't going to make your list, especially since you hadn't listed it yet. So I was worried that this one wasn't coming. So thank you.
I love this car. I love the cello case. Just awesome chase. Lots of fun. It's just a blast. And almost any other movie list, this could easily sit at number 1. So this is awesome. I love it. So car and cello from Living Daylights, my number 4.
All right. So that brings us to my number 4, which is one that might shock some of our listeners that it made it this high on my list, or that this is the second scene from this same movie that is on my list. But this chase scene, even though it's in a movie that I don't really care for very much, even though it's a Bond actor that I really don't care for very much, this scene is still very, very iconic and very, very well done. And so I have to put it on my list, and I have to put it high on my list. From On Her Majesty's Secret Service, the ski chase. It's got to be there. It's fantastic. Bright spot in an otherwise not so great movie.
I can't fault you for it because it is iconic, and really it's the only time you have Bond chasing Blofeld. I mean, actually chasing Blofeld. Because the scene that happened earlier was Blofeld chasing Bond. Yeah. And I get it. And through the bobsled track, I just couldn't put it that high. There were too many distractions with how the effects are shot, but I understand. So certainly not going to fault you for it.
All right. Fair enough. Like I said, I'm sure some of our listeners may be shocked that anything from that film ended up that high on my list, but again, I wasn't judging just the scenes by themselves, not the films from which the scenes were taken. Now, my number 3 is one that I already severely questioned your judgment on, and I can sum up in one word. Parkour! How can you not love that scene? I don't care how played out parkour is now. That scene was fantastic, especially the bits where Bond decided to forgo the parkour. When he burst through the drywall, he's like, you know what? Forget all that. I'm just coming straight through the freaking drywall.
Kool-Aid Man!
Oh, yeah. Fantastic. Oh, I just love this chase scene, and it's so action-packed. And yes, parkour, especially now, is very played out. But at the time, especially of filming, it was still a fairly new kind of phenomenon, and I can understand why they would want to use it. And again, I find that the only time that I find it acceptable is in a situation where you're literally running for your life. So for me, it worked on all of those levels, and the fact that Bond... Well, if Bond was parkouring also, I think I would have been like, what the hell is this? But the fact that he wasn't, the fact that he was just literally running this guy down while he was doing all this fancy stuff and jumping around and hopping hither and pither like a little cat or something, Bond's just running through walls, running up cranes, doing everything he has to do to catch up to this guy just through brute force. I just love that dynamic. And so for me, number 3 with a bullet, Casino Royale, the parkour chase scene.
Even though I didn't vote this way, I am not going to question your judgment because I do understand it's as before, an iconic scene and just awesome scene. Any other movie would love to have it. I admit it's entirely personal bias on my part that it's not this high for me.
Fair enough. So what then do you have in that number 3 spot?
Well, on a similar vein, except even deeper of a vein, because of course, much earlier in the list, you broke my heart in San Francisco.
I'm so sorry.
How could you possibly not have the San Francisco fire truck chase in your top 10 even? Much less not even in your top 25. Come on, man. I mean, you have the entire Monday Night Football crew, for any of you who watch it, saying, come on, man. San Francisco fire truck chase. I mean, damn. Talk about fun. Talk about you don't see this. It's just a blast to watch. And with the exception that traffic is so light, I mean, I suppose it is still the early 80s, but other than that, they take great advantage of the location. And fire truck. It's a fire truck.
You understand my moon buggy phenomenon over here.
All the wheels stayed on the fire truck.
Well, it had so many more, I mean, to be fair.
And it's another one of those too where you have the unique vehicle, you have the great location, and you've also got that kind of Blues Brothers entertaining feel to it. Like you had the Vegas chase. It's just that there's so many elements that come together in this fantastic chase. And then the fire truck jumps a bridge. What the hell? It's just, I love it. So I'm actually shocked that it made it as low as number 3 on my list. So for all my good friends at the Triton and everyone else who knows exactly how I feel and think about these things, of course, my number 3 is San Francisco Fire Truck from A View to a Kill. Rock on. Dance into the fire truck.
Fair enough.
All right.
A great scene, great fun. I just, like I said, I don't know what it was, but there's just something that kept it down a little bit for me, and I can't even necessarily explain it. But
yeah, I'm sure she's heard that before.
Anyway.
He keeps walking into those all night. Have you noticed that, folks?
I know. What's up with that?
So that brings us both to our top 2. I have a sneaking suspicion here.
Well, there is one that is definitely a glaring one that hasn't been mentioned by either of us yet, and so I'm either very, very worried that it's not on your list whatsoever, or very, very happy that it's at least in your top 2. I'll go ahead and, since I don't know if your number 2 has already been mentioned by me, but my number 2 has already been mentioned by you. So, how do we want to proceed?
I think that we are in the same situation, and I will be shocked if at this point we do not agree on number 1.
Wow, that would be awesome.
Which would mean that for the first time ever, I think we would have agreed on the bottom and the top.
That is crazy. Oh, wow. Okay, that'll be interesting. Well,
because I cannot see how this would not be number 1 on your list.
It would be very difficult, and like I said, my number 2 you've already mentioned, so... my number 2 you've already mentioned. All right. Well, you want to go then?
So I don't think that it comes as any surprise to anyone, especially for Eric. But also, when I gave it some thought, there were 3 things I initially considered as could have gone for the top spot. And then after a moment's thought, it became clear what number 1 had to be. And one of those 3 things originally was my dear San Francisco Fire Truck. But even the San Francisco Fire Truck had to take a back seat because it just couldn't be on a top, whereas Tank Chase through St. Petersburg had to be on top.
Oh, yes. Oh, I think that is the very first time that we've had a number 1 pick and the bottom pick be identical for both of us. Because, yes, Tank Chase, he's chasing him through the streets in a freaking tank, crying out loud. Oh my gosh. And it's just so fantastic the way he does it. Everything about that chase is exciting, it's fun, and yeah, it's a tank, yeah, okay, yeah.
And he's so matter-of-fact driving it in a business suit.
Yeah. He's driving around the tank, and oh man,
gets a statue dropped on top of him, keeps going.
Yeah, driving around.
Drives it through a bridge to get rid of it.
Yep, drives through, and car goes through an alley, thinking, "Oh, the tank can't fit through this alley." Oh, yeah, the tank will make the alley fit.
And through the entire thing, and this is what is the icing on the cake for me. This is the thing that absolutely took it to where there could be nothing else on top, because along with the awesomeness of James Bond driving through the streets of Russia with a tank, General Oromov is looking behind him, reaches for a flask, takes a drink.
He's like, am I seriously being chased by a tank? Holy crap, I need a drink. Exactly. Oh, so much great stuff about this movie. And this chase scene is definitely one of the top thing of this film. So, yeah, absolutely couldn't be anything else for number 1 for me. Just jumped right out, right at the very beginning. And I objectively tried to think if there were any chase scenes that could go above this. And there were a couple of moments when my number 2... when I thought about maybe bringing it up, and there were even a couple of brief moments when I wondered if that parkour scene wasn't good enough for number 1. But ultimately, the tank beat everything. So, what then did you have at your number 2 spot?
Just one more small bit of trivia
okay.
Regarding the tank chase. Savvy audience members may notice that the score during the tank chase scene doesn't quite match the rest of the movie. And it also doesn't match the official soundtrack that you bought at the store. Because if you bought it at the store, then track number 10 is called A Pleasant Drive Through St. Petersburg, which is what was meant to be during the tank chase. And it's Eric Serra's electronica version of the Bond theme. And the Eon Productions just said, no, we would like the traditional James Bond theme somewhere in this movie. So they created an alternate track with the standard James Bond music, which was fine with me. I mean, I actually like both tracks. I prefer the track they used in the film for the purposes of the chase scene. However, as kind of a jam and groove and dance track, I like Pleasant Drive Through St. Petersburg.
No.
So, but awesome chase scene. After I gave it more than 5 minutes thought, it was just like, there's nothing that could have beat Tank Chase Through St. Petersburg at my number 1 spot.
Oh, yes. And it feels so good.
Indeed.
So what then narrowly escaped number 1 and ended up at number 2?
Well, it was a narrow escape for it, but, of course, even though we can't include this, since it's, well, actually we kind of can, because that's how the chase does end, Bond didn't escape. In fact, people thought he died. I am referring, of course, to the opening chase sequence from Skyfall, which is freaking phenomenal. Just, you have everything. You start off with a standard vehicle chase through very crowded, very busy streets. Then we get on motorcycles, and we're driving over the Grand Bazaar of Istanbul, one of the great spy cities of all time, and just one of the great Bond cities. And the Grand Bazaar, with the beautiful, gorgeous, one of the greatest buildings on Earth, Hagia Sophia, clearly in the background as a venue for this motorcycle chase, is just awesome. And then, no, we're not stopping there. No, because we got to sell you this extra cheese grater. No,
But wait, there's more.
There is, because then we hop on a train. And then as we're on the train, Bond has to use a backhoe to keep the chase going. And Beetles get knocked over. Yeah. And fist fight on train. Just awesomeness all the way around. So much action, so much excitement, so much variety. And in such a great location. Just only the awesomeness of a tank chase through St. Petersburg, for me, could beat the opening chase of Skyfall.
All right. You've sold me. I'm moving it up on my list. We need to stop and re-record this entire thing. No, yeah, just absolutely fantastic scene. I completely agree. And those bugs had what was coming to them for trying to cheat the system. So
they did. They totally did.
I'm sure some of those were TDI bugs. I'm sure. All right. So for my number 2, again, like I said, this was one that you already mentioned. This one, had a little flirting affair with number 1 in my mind for a little while, but ultimately the tank did beat it out. But how can you not love a chase scene that starts with a souped-up Lotus and ends in a freaking cello case from The Living Daylights? Of course it had to be that snow chase scene. I mean, you've got the fantastic Lotus, which was just awesome to begin with. I'm kind of disappointed that the Lotus didn't make it into more films. You've got outriggers for it to go on the snow. It cuts the ice with its rims. And then when the car eventually is no good anymore, it's like, oh, you know what? We better jump into this cello case that I originally didn't want to go back for. But since we do have it, I guess we better use it. And the fact that he was using the cello itself...
The Stradivarius cello.
Stradivarius cello as essentially a paddle or to guide the cello case. There's a reason the cello case was on my list for Bond vehicles.
Mine too, as you may recall.
Yes, absolutely. Fun chase, and barely beaten out by a tank. So... Fantastic chase scenes. And I think the moral to the story of this whole episode is that Bond is chase scenes. I mean, the Bondinessosity of a chase scene is unparalleled in the movie universe. There are just so many great ones. I mean, just taking a quick gander here, it looks like we had about 10 or so that we didn't have on each other's lists. So that means, for a list of a top 29 list, we actually ended up with nearly 50 different chase scenes in this list.
And we still missed some.
Exactly. That is fantastic. That is amazing to me. So, yeah, don't let anybody tell you that Bond movies don't have good chase scenes, because that would be a damn dirty lie.
It would indeed. And then you'll have to go chase after them.
Oh!
With a tank.
Damn straight.
But, yeah, I can't agree more. I mean, just chase scenes are essential to Bond. A Bond movie without a chase scene is not a Bond movie, period. And, in fact, I think that's one of the reasons why it was so easy for me to walk away from Dr. No as often as I did, as I was mentioning during our The List episode, is that it has one chase scene, really. Mm-hmm. That's it. And that's really the only Bond movie you can say that about. Yeah. So it was just, I think that's part of it, because normally Bond movies are loaded with them. Yep. And yet they're not stupid chase scenes. Even the ones that have silliness in them, I mean, they still forward the story. In fact, they are major things that forward the story. There's very rarely anything about a chase scene in a Bond movie that's throwaway. So, except, of course, when you use a frickin' slide whistle and then you throw away one of the best special effects shots that wasn't even a special effects shot, a stunt shot.
Oh, so sad, so sad.
So, yeah, chase scenes in Bond are like vodka and shaken not stirred. They have to go together.
Yep, I wholeheartedly agree. Absolutely.
So, yeah, like I said, when we started this off, this was one of the hardest lists for me to do that we've ever had on the show. And I am shocked at how it turned out, in that we agreed at both the bottom and the top. That has never happened before.
There's a first time for everything.
And I also find it hilarious that we had more than one occasion where we matched the movie on a spot, but different scenes.
Yeah. Close, but no cigar. Yeah, it's it just really speaks to the variety you get from these movies. The Bond franchise in general. It's like, yeah, you say there's a Bond formula, so to speak, but yet we still were able to get 50 different scenes from these different movies just to make this one list. So that speaks to the variety that you can get even from a formulatic movie franchise.
Indeed it does. So, what about you? What about your favorite chase scenes? Did you like our list of chase scenes, or was there something that you're questioning our judgment on? Please let us know. You can always visit HerMajesty'sPod.com, find this episode, and leave a comment in the comment section. You can also visit us on Facebook, facebook.com/HerMajesty'sPod. Leave a comment there. You can also email me directly at ziggy@cinemaontherocks.com. You can tweet me directly at cinemaotr. You can tweet the show at Her Majesty's Pod. And how can they get a hold of you, Eric?
You can tweet at me at Eric J. Dewey, or send me an email at eric@foureyedradio.com. Yeah, definitely follow us on the Facebook, or like us on the Facebook, follow us on the Twitters, find us on the web, and don't forget to enter our contest, hermajestieспod.com/contest, or just go to hermajestieспod.com and click on that contest link right there on the front page. It'll take you to a form. You can easily select an episode for your favorite. You can easily select a list for the one that you want us to redo, and just a quick comment about what you like best about our show overall. That's it. That's all you have to do to enter our contest. That's it. It's super, super easy. And if you don't like forms, put those things into an email and shoot it to contest@hermajestieспod.com. And it's just that easy.
Yeah, we'd like to hear from as many of you as possible, especially the listeners we've been hearing from the very beginning, but even our newest listeners, everybody. We want your input. We want you to enter our contest, so please do that. You have until the end of the day in your own time zone on Halloween, October 31st, 2015. So please enter our fan appreciation contest, because it is all about you, the fans, and we appreciate you.
We do. We very much do.
With that said, on our next episode of Her Majesty's Secret Podcast, we're going to engage in Mortal Kombat!
Boom, 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 boom. I don't know. There won't be any weird trance electronic dance soundtrack.
We sure about that, mercenary man?
Or will there?
So stay tuned for that on our next episode. But for now, we're very happy that you joined us on this merry chase. So I'm Ziggy Berkeley.
And I'm Eric Dewey.
And thank you for listening to another episode of Her Majesty's Secret Podcast, only on The Fern.
This has been another proud production of the Four-Eyed Radio Network. You want to see more shows, go check out www.foureyedradio.com, you winkers.